Hi everyone, my name is Video Game Docs and welcome back to Into the Collection. I know it's been a while since I uploaded, things have been a bit crazy, but what matters is we're back. And today we're going to be continuing the theme of looking at Legend of Zelda games, continuing with the Legend of Zelda's 30th anniversary. And today we're going to be looking at the third game in the series to come out for the Super Nintendo, the Legend of Zelda A Link to the Past. Some background information on it. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, originally released in 1991 in Japan, and was also named Legend of Zelda: Triforce of the Gods. The game eventually saw a release in North America as The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past in April of 1992. Now, like I said before, this is the third game in the series, and it is on a more powerful console, the Super Nintendo, running a 16-bit system instead of the NES's 8-bit system. This game had Takashi Tezuka as the main director, Shigeru Miyamoto being a producer on it, and of course Koji Kondo as the sound designer for this game as well. So if we go ahead and take a look at the box, of course we have the classic Legend of Zelda font. This is kind of where it starts coming into its own shape. We'll see this font many years down the line, and we have a classic look of having the shield and the sword. So here you have some screen grabs of the game, and then we have the hook to get you in. Fantasy and reality collide in a land of enchantment. Venture back to Hyrule and an age of magic and heroes. The predecessors of Link and Zelda face monsters on the march when a menacing magician takes over the kingdom. Only you can prevent this evil plot from shattering the land of Hyrule. So, like it kind of mentions, the predecessors of Link and Zelda, this is actually the first time in the series, obviously with a third game, that's not many chances, but this is the first time in the series to have a new Link and to give us the idea that this is a different Link entirely compared to Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. So, if we go ahead and flip this over and pop it off, I personally do really like the Super Nintendo packaging. I kind of wish this black border wasn't there, but you know, what are you gonna do exactly? So we pop this little guy out, nice pull, and here we are. Now this is what comes in the box. You have, of course, the manual, like every NES to Super Nintendo to all the way up to you know, PS3, Wii U, some PS4 games, all that stuff. So the classic manual. This time, I did manage to snag the complete edition of the game. So it has a fairly big, let's see if I can even fit it into frame. A fairly big map of Hyrule, and this shows the entirety of the overworld. It shows, of course, Kakariko Village, or Kakariko, however you want to pronounce it. It shows Hyrule Castle there in the middle, the Eastern Palace, Fairy Cave, a magic shop, just about everything that you need to know, even the coveted Master Sword, which was also introduced in this game. So of course, that is what you get in the box. That is what you would open up once you got the game for real. And then right here, you have a Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past Top Secrets. And then this is a little warning telling you that this booklet actually contains spoilers and answers to some of the puzzles in the game. So some basic adventuring tactics like the Light World, which if you didn't know, there's a Dark World in this game. And this is also the first Zelda game to introduce two different worlds. Much like Ocarina of Time later would have the Young Link and Adult Link, this has the Light World and the Dark World. And here's a good view of the different secrets in the game. And then of course you have the cartridge itself. Now this one I was able to get in pretty good condition. And you have the border that matches the box, and of course the Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. So with all that said and done, let's go ahead and open up the manual. So first page here we have some beautiful artwork that was drawn for the game. Obviously we can assume that that's the Master Sword, as most Zelda fans will know. Yes, that is the Master Sword, it's stuck in the stone, much like the Tale of King Arthur. And then here we have a little table of contents telling us the introduction before starting the game, viewing the main and sub screens, using the controller, equipment, ending saving, life and magic, lore of Hyrule, dungeon knowledge, item inventory, the legend begins, and a brief history of Hyrule. Oh, sorry, bestiary. So if we go ahead and start off, we see the legends of Hyrule, and we see the creation of Hyrule, and according to the Hylian scrolls, the mythical gods descended from the distant nebula to the world that was and created order and life. The god of power dyed the mountains red and with fire and created land. The god of wisdom created science and wizardry and brought order to nature. And the god of courage, through justice and vigor, created life. So this is actually explaining some of the lore that we would get in a cutscene in Ocarina of Time. And so right here it even mentions the Triforce. Although it was an inanimate object, the Triforce had the power to bestow 3 titles, which gave the person who received them great powers: the Forger of Strength, the Keeper of Knowledge, and the Juror of Courage. From its hiding place in the so-called Golden Land, where the gods placed it, the Triforce beckoned people from the outside world to seek it, in hope that someone worthy of these titles would find it. With their magic-infused blood, the Hylian people were endowed with psychic powers and skill in wizardry. It was also said that their long, pointed ears enabled them to hear special messages from the gods, so they were held in high esteem by many people in Hyrule. So that's actually kind of curious, as it mentions a specific people of the Hylian people, which in Zelda lore today we kind of know that just about everyone is Hylian, but this actually seems to make a distinction that, you know, there are Hylian, but there are, you know, maybe people that aren't Hylian and might just be human. This also talks about the gates to the Golden Land, or in Ocarina of Time it would be known as the Sacred Realm, but this is the Golden Land in this version of the game. So then here's a bit of the prologue. One night a girl's voice awakens you from your sleep. Help, my name is Zelda. I'm in the castle dungeon. And this is explained at the very beginning with a bit of a cutscene. Like it says, your uncle... yeah, you find your uncle. He leaves. I'll be back in the morning, he says. That's a bit of context that is given at the beginning of the game, so you don't necessarily need to read through this. And then it defines your quest. So then as we go on, we get a bit of a tutorial, the player select screen obviously, the erase player, copy player features, and then viewing the main subscreen, seeing your magic meter, your item display, rupees, bombs, arrows, all that stuff, and the subscreen with all your items. This game introduces many items into the Zelda universe that would commonly be known later on. And then of course a little tutorial on how to use the controller, and a little tutorial on, you know, moving your character, like walking around. You can now move in 8 separate directions instead of just 1, 2, 3, 4, like Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2. You can leap down from ledges. You can push blocks, just like in Zelda and Zelda 2. And then it talks about how you can run, which is very interesting, because right here it says, note, you can only run if you're wearing the Pegasus shoes. So this is kind of a before you get this, you might need to know this type of thing so you're not fumbling around with it. You can lift and throw stuff. You can open treasure chests if you walk up and press the A button. You can swim. You can talk. You can read. But also, again, it mentions if you find Zora's flippers, you can swim. And again, these are just some really cool artworks of Link shoulder bashing, Link running, picking up a pot, and of course swimming, and then you see a sage of some sorts. What's really interesting is most people commonly know that Link to the Past, at least Link's sprite, has pink hair, and a lot of these illustrations obviously show Link with his normal golden blonde hair. And then of course it walks you through swinging your sword, the new whirling blade technique where you can hold B and then do a spin attack with some pretty cool artwork there, I'd say. A dashing attack, which is if you have the Pegasus boots, of course, and then the regular sword blow. And then of course this is one of the classic Link to the Past illustrations that we've seen a lot, and of course a beam attack, which is if you have all your heart containers full. And then of course it talks to you about the Y button and some of the items like the flute, which curiously looks a lot like the ocarina from Ocarina of Time, the Staff of Birna, and the Magic Cape, which you will get later. And then of course, how to select items, how to select bottles and use bottles, and all that fun stuff. And then it tells you about the X button, how you can view the map, and this time, using Mode 7 graphics, we can actually see a full detailed map instead of a bunch of black squares. compared to Zelda 1. And you can see a close-up of the map and the full world map. Now this doesn't have any names or specific features. It does fill in with certain things. As you can see here a little bit, you can see a pendant, one of the pendants that you need to collect, the other one, and then the third one, and then the Master Sword, of course. So it does mark key locations like dungeons and stuff like that, but it doesn't necessarily mark towns. You can see, obviously, Kakiro Village, but it doesn't say Kakiro Village. Kakariko. Did I say Kakiro? Kakariko Village. And then of course we go over some more equipment. Your sword, your shield, your armor. And you can find, of course, the blue mail and the red mail that will reduce damage from 25% to 50%. And then of course it talks about the Pegasus shoes, the power gloves, which will help you lift stronger things, and Titan's mitt, which is kind of the same thing, but for stronger stuff. And then the Zora's flippers and the Moon Pearl, which lets you enter the Dark World at any place instead of a specific mark on the ground. Then of course ending and saving the games, and it even gives you a little bit of guide on the save and continue and where you'll start off. Like if you save and continue in a dungeon, you will start at the dungeon entrance instead of exactly where you were in the dungeon. And then you can, press the select button. Here's a really cool, or what I think is a cool illustration of Link. Pictures like this really remind me of Studio Ghibli in a lot of ways, and personally as a huge Zelda fan, I would love to see a Studio Ghibli style animation for a Zelda franchise, but we'll see if that ever happens. Then moving on, it talks about life and magical power, like how you can restore life by visiting a fairy, just like Zelda 1 and Zelda 2, of course. And then, of course, restoring magical power, where you can get 2 big green bottles. And of course, you can go to the magic shop and buy different potions, including the green potion, red potion, and blue potion, where the green potion restores your magic, red restores your heart containers, and blue does both completely. And then it also talks a little bit more about heart containers and pieces of heart, a collectible that was kind of in Zelda 1. In Zelda 1, it was essentially just a heart container. You just got a new heart container, but this time you have pieces of heart where you can get 4 of them, and then you will upgrade your life. So as you might notice, this game completely ditches most of the RPG elements that Zelda 2 had. It doesn't feature the leveling up. It doesn't feature the putting skill points into life or magic to get more life or magic. It goes back to Zelda 1's roots of just finding items or using potions to do that sort of stuff, and getting heart containers and heart pieces throughout your adventure. And then of course we have some lore of Hyrule, like bushes, and how you can find money in bushes. This is kind of the start of the Link cutting grass joke / meme that has been in the Zelda franchise and all surrounding communities for a long time. Rupees, which gives you a nice guide on how it goes, with green being 1, blue being 5, and red being 20. And then of course a shop. You can visit the fortune teller's house to get your fortune read, of course. You can go to the smithy's shop, which he might be able to upgrade your sword, possibly. And he can, like it says here, he can even improve the Master Sword. However, he cannot do it himself, and his partner is now missing. So that kind of gives you a little tease that, maybe there's a side quest or something where you can get his partner, and then, maybe you can upgrade the Master Sword through that. And then of course there is a pond of happiness. Each time you visit, you should throw a few rubies into the pond. Over time they will add up, and eventually the fountain will bring you happiness. Again, another sort of side quest where you can get rewarded by tossing a lot of rubies and stuff in there. And then of course the whirlpool of waterways, which are magical whirlpools that will take you to different locations in Hyrule. And then the magical warp tile, which will take you directly to the Dark World immediately. And then it goes over some basic dungeon knowledge and how you need to obviously go to each dungeon. In this game there are a total of 13, I believe, with Hyrule Castle counting as 2, which is the most in a Zelda game at this point. And then it even specifies right here, to simplify things, I'll refer to such places as the underground labyrinth, the tower, and the inside of the sanctuary as dungeons. So there are different dungeons in this game. They're not just, a dungeon. They are kind of themed in different ways with labyrinths, destroyed temples and stuff like that. Whereas Zelda 2, it was just a temple, and then Zelda 1, it was dungeons. And then you have the 3 pendants. These are what you need to get the Master Sword. The pendants are carved with Crest of Courage, Crest of Power, and of course the Crest of Wisdom, just like the Triforce. And then you'll need the crystal, which you will find the 7 crystals in the Dark World to help overthrow Ganon. And another little side note for lore-wise, the pendants, as you may know, are the exact same things that you need to unlock the Master Sword and Ocarina of Time. You need the green pendant you get the green pendant from the Deku Tree, the red pendant from the Gorons, and then the blue pendant from the Zora. And all 3 of those obviously have connections to the Triforce of Courage, Power, and Wisdom, and then you get the Master Sword right after you get that. Of course, there's more to it in Ocarina of Time, but that's the gist of it. And then, of course, you have the treasure chest. It kind of tells you that there are 2 different treasure chests. A big treasure chest that contains a special item, for example, the bow and arrow or something like that. And then you have the dungeon map, which gives you the layout, obviously, the compass, and the big key, which allows you to go fight the boss. So before, in Zelda 1 and Zelda 2, it was just kind of you happened upon the boss, and then this time this kind of introduces the big key or the boss key, which is how it would kind of be introduced in later games, to where you have a specific key for the specific boss in that dungeon. So it's locked behind a big door with a huge lock, and you need the big key or the boss key to fight him. And then this is just how to view the dungeon screen. Very, not as similar to Zelda 1. It does show you, a few different things like the boss's lair, like it did before, unexplored rooms, stairs, all that stuff. And if we move on, we have dungeon contraptions, including pots that you can break, keys and doors. Some doors will need keys. Fragile walls, which are actually marked in this game. As you can see here, you can actually tell where to bomb instead of having to bomb a random location, which is fairly nice. And then crystal switches, a new addition to this game, where, as you see here, the switch is red, you hit it, switch is blue, and all the blue stones are down, but the red stones are now up. And it notes all blue and orange blocks in the dungeons react this way. Orange, not red, my bad. And then we have manholes. Link can actually fall down, down, down to the bottom of the sea, and he will take damage. This glare is awful, and you can also knock enemies down there. And then this one, so if it's black completely, you fall and take damage. If it's something like this, you fall, you have no damage, but you drop to the floor below in the dungeon. So if you're on floor 3, drop to floor 2, stuff like that. And then, of course, to talk magical powder, which can do a lot of different things in this game. The magical mirror, which you can escape the dark world at any time when you use that, which is pretty nice. The magic hammer, which helps you pound certain things into the ground, another recurring item to go on from Zelda games. It shows up in Ocarina of Time. The hook shot, which is another big item in the Zelda universe. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, I think. Yeah, Skyward Sword has them. Just about all of them have it. And then, of course, you have the shovel, which you can dig holes and, possibly get this stuff. And like it says, you need the shovel to find the flute. So some of these, it actually has small little descriptions to kind of help you throughout the game as well. So this can be very accessible and very helpful in a lot of ways. And then of course you have the flute, the ice rod and fire rod, which kind of do what they say, and then the staff of Somaria, which creates blocks formed of pure magic powder. And if you notice right here with the magical powder, the ice, fire, and staff of Somaria, you can tell there's a little magic thing right here, and that's to show you that, you know, they do use magic if you use it. So your magic bar will deplete. And same with the staff of Birna, the magic cape, the magic medallions, the bombos, ether, and quake, which all do different abilities. And like it says here, all magic medallions consume magical force. And these tell you kind of what these medallions do. The magic of this medallion sets off explosive forces around you, which engulf the enemy in flames. The ether medallion charges your sword with a cold chill that freezes the surrounding enemies. And quake. If you drive your sword into the ground when you have this medallion, the earth will come to life. Such an attack and the fear it creates are bound to affect an enemy. And it actually doesn't mention this, which is kind of weird, but quake is actually one of the medallions that you need to get into one of the dungeons, which is, you know, pretty important. And then it tells you your quest begins. With the knowledge you have gained so far, you should be ready for your quest. But if you still have doubts, what follows is a message for the legendary hero of Hyrule, which you may yet become, from the Hylian Book of Mudora. We, the prophets of the Hylia, know what your future holds. Listen carefully. And then again, it kind of tells you at the very beginning of the game and how to continue the game, and how to, you know, do the first dungeon, which is saving Zelda. And it even mentions, like, don't forget to grab the boomerang hidden in the castle. And then it even tells you what to do after that. Go to Kakariko Village, do some stuff like that. And then you get the 3 pendants of virtue before you can claim the Master Sword. When you have the 3 pendants, you'll be able to wield the Master Sword, which is in the Lost Woods. And then you can try to go fight Aghanim. And again, some really cool artwork here. One of him facing an enemy, which I forget the name, but we'll see here shortly. Another very beautiful image of Link up in the mountains with the clouds in front of him. And then, of course, him grabbing the Master Sword. And then here's a brief bestiary. We have the Stalfos returning as skeletons, essentially. The Ball and Chain Trooper, which is just a knight that throws a ball and chain around his head. We have the Gibdos, which are, you know, basically mummies back from Zelda 1 and Zelda 2. There's the Geldman, the sand monster, or the Sandman that lives beneath the shifting desert sands. And then of course we have the Hinox, which you may recognize a little bit differently, a little bit more muscular in this version, but the Hinox, of course, did reappear in Breath of the Wild. They're a little bit chubbier in those versions, but, you know. Then you have the Snapdragon, the Helmasaur, and the Wizrobe, all of which are recurring characters in the Zelda series. And then, of course, the warranty and service information. And with that, that is the Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. And again, here's all the items. Let's go ahead. I actually do want to go ahead and try to show you a bit more of the map, because we just looked at one side of the map and you may have caught a glimpse of it, but if I can unfold it. So if we open it back up, we have the Hyrule overworld again, and it actually lists some specific locations: Spectacle Rock, treasure, hidden caves, magical transporters, listen to your elders, and then one-way doors. But then on the back of it, we actually have some dungeon lore, which actually gives you a full comprehensive map of the Eastern Palace, the Desert Palace, and the Mountain Tower, which is actually very interesting. So the game, I would argue, essentially treats the first 3 dungeons as a walkthrough, and this map plus this manual, which you were expected to read through when you first got the game, would have helped you the entire way. And it would have essentially walked you through the game and how to do certain things, how to get so far. And then the game would be up to you. And that's when the game gets a little bit more freeing, in that you don't have to go in a specific order. You can kind of tackle any of the dungeons in whatever you want. It is a bit hard to tackle certain dungeons in a certain order, but that's essentially how it goes. So of course, if you enjoyed this video, thank you for watching so much. The next one will be on the Game Boy game Link's Awakening. Actually, I managed to pick up a copy of that not too long ago, so we're going to be looking at Link's Awakening DX. I don't have the original, so you'll have to settle for DX version. And actually, let me show that off real quick. And here it is. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX includes a new secret dungeon, accessible on Game Boy Color only. So next time we'll be checking out this game and what this has to offer in terms of what comes in the box. And that's it. Again, thank you guys for watching. Look out for the Link's Awakening video, should be coming very soon after this. And then I do have another documentary that I'm working on, so please watch out for that as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.